The Deep Dog Podcast is brought to you by X9 Intelligence, LLC. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and visit our blogs at x9intel.com. Okay, so what if I told you that having a baby might not require, well, the traditional way of doing things?
Well, that definitely sounds like we're stepping into some sci-fi territory, right?
Exactly. Today we're diving deep into In Vitro Gametogenesis, IVG for short. It's this groundbreaking scientific development that could, well, totally redefine parenthood.
Wow. Yeah, IVG is definitely sparking a lot of discussion lately, and for good reason.
And for good reason. I mean, I was looking over the articles you sent over from The Guardian, Bio News, Yahoo News, even the Economic Times.
Oh, and don't forget the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority, the HFEA.
Right, the HFEA.
They had a report, too. It's changing everything we thought we knew about having kids.
Okay, so for those who haven't been following this like we have, what exactly is IVG?
So basically, IVG is the ability for scientists to create sperm and egg cells in a lab.
In a lab?
Using a person's skin or stem cells.
So no need for, like, traditional egg and sperm donation?
No, it opens up a whole new world for reproduction.
This is just blowing my mind. So, like, how far along are we with this technology?
So there's been some really cool success with IVG in mice.
Mice, like actual baby mice.
Actual baby mice. The Guardian article you sent, it details a study where scientists made healthy baby mice from two fathers.
Hold on, two fathers with IVG?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right?
Is this something we could see, like, with human babies anytime soon?
Well, no human trials have started just yet, but there are a few U.S. companies like Conception and Gameto that are putting a ton of resources into IVG research.
So they think it could be a reality? Like, how soon?
Well, some experts are saying optimistically 2 to 3 years.
Seriously, that's so soon.
Others are saying maybe within a decade.
I mean, I get it. This is all very complex.
It is, but even the possibility is amazing.
So how does it work? Turning skin cells into sperm and eggs? I mean, come on.
Right. It sounds like science fiction, but it's really cool. So they take the cells, either skin or stem cells, and they reprogram them.
Reprogram them?
Yeah. They introduce specific genes and factors that essentially, like, reset the cells.
So they're like turning back the clock on these cells?
Yeah, kind of. They turn them into pluripotent stem cells, which can basically develop into any type of cell in the body.
Any type, so including sperm and eggs.
Exactly. And the crazy part is these lab-grown cells, they actually work.
They do?
In the mouse studies, they were able to fertilize eggs and produce those healthy offspring we talked about.
Wow. Okay, so I know there must be challenges, like a ton of them.
Oh, for sure. Like a huge one is ensuring this is safe for humans, for making babies.
Yeah, got to make sure those babies are healthy.
Absolutely. Creating viable, healthy gametes in a lab, it's a super complex process.
And I'm sure we don't know everything about the long-term effects yet either, right?
Right. There's a lot more research to be done.
But let's say, hypothetically, they work out all the kinks. What could this mean for the future of, well, having kids?
It could completely change how we deal with infertility, like people with low sperm or egg counts or people who've had chemo.
Right. Or even people diagnosed with conditions that affect their fertility.
Exactly. They could all still have biological children.
It could also remove age as a barrier, too.
It could, yeah. And it's not just individuals and families. The HFEA, they actually pointed out how this could impact research.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned their report earlier.
Right. They said IVG could, and I quote, vastly increase the availability of human sperm and eggs for research.
Oh, that's huge. That could lead to all kinds of new discoveries.
It could. Breakthroughs in reproductive health. Who knows?
It's exciting, but are we, like, opening a Pandora's box here?
It's a good question. Any technology this groundbreaking, especially one dealing with human reproduction, is going to have some ethical and social implications that we need to be very careful about.
Right, like, could someone just create a baby from one person's genetic material?
You're talking about solo parenting, which is definitely one of the most controversial aspects of IVG.
Yeah, this is where it starts to feel like we're heading into, like, dystopian sci-fi territory.
I hear you. It raises some big questions about ethics, about what could happen if someone tries to have a child using only their own genetic material. And then there are the genetic risks, too.
Oh, right, like a higher risk of genetic disorders.
Exactly. It's like, well, extreme incest, genetically speaking.
Okay, so let's say solo parenting is off the table. What about the opposite? Like, could a child have multiple parents?
Oh, you mean multiplex parenting?
Yeah, I read about that. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's definitely pushing the boundaries of how we define family.
So how would that even work?
You could have, say, two couples, each create embryos. Then they take cells from those embryos and use them to create the final embryo.
So the child would have 4 biological grandparents.
That's the idea.
I mean, that just seems so complicated.
It is, and it definitely brings up even more ethical questions than solo parenting.
Because we're basically talking about changing the entire concept of family.
We are. And then there's the whole issue of gene editing and designer babies.
Right, designer babies. That's been a hot topic for a while. So how does IVG play into that?
Well, it makes gene editing techniques like CRISPR much easier to use, potentially even more powerful.
So scientists could, make a bunch of embryos in the lab and then use CRISPR to screen for specific traits.
Or to edit out genes that cause diseases.
So parents could pick, their child's eye color, height, even intelligence.
It's possible. And that brings up a whole other set of ethical concerns like, are we playing God?
It's a slippery slope for sure. Where do we draw the line?
And, will this just make social inequality even worse? What if only rich people can afford to design their babies?
It seems like the potential consequences are just as massive as the technology itself.
They are. And this is a conversation that needs to happen now before it's too late.
Before IVG is widely available.
Right. We need to think about the ethical, social, and economic implications very carefully.
I think it's safe to say we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll continue this discussion in part 2 of our deep dive into IVG.
It's amazing to think about how IVG could change, family structures.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
It's always changing what we consider traditional today is so different from a few generations ago.
Exactly. And IVG could speed that up even more. If having biological kids isn't a must for a family anymore, what does that even mean for relationships?
Yeah. We'll even choose partners the same way anymore.
It makes you wonder, right? Will people pick partners based on just, love and if they get along, not because they want kids?
That's a huge change from how things are now.
It would be. We might not even think about finding a partner to start a family anymore.
I love that. But we have to talk about the downsides too.
Oh, absolutely. Even regular IVF is super expensive for a lot of people.
What if IVG is just another thing only rich people can afford?
Right. It could make that gap between the haves and have-nots even bigger.
It's a scary thought, having this technology, and only the wealthy can use it.
Exactly. And ethically, is it really okay to be manipulating genes like that? Even if it's for a good reason, it's a discussion that everyone needs to be a part of, not just scientists.
This feels like a major turning point, like we're deciding the future of humanity almost.
It does, doesn't it? We're talking about controlling the creation of life.
It really makes you question everything you thought you knew.
Right. What does it even mean to be human anymore?
Okay, so we talked about solo parenting and multiplex parenting. But what other kinds of families could we see with IVG?
Well, we might see more co-parenting, where groups of people raise a child together.
So like a modern-day village raising a child.
That's a great way to put it. And more people might choose to be single parents.
Because they wouldn't need to find a partner just to have kids.
Exactly. IVG could give them that freedom.
So many new possibilities.
Yeah.
But how will kids feel growing up in a world where the traditional family might not be so traditional anymore?
Well, research shows that kids raised in all kinds of families can thrive, whether it's single parents, blended families, or same-sex parents.
The key is a loving and stable home.
Exactly. And kids are super adaptable. They've always figured things out as families change.
That's true. But what about kids who are conceived naturally?
Oh, will they feel pressure to keep up with their genetically enhanced peers?
Will there be different opportunities for them, different expectations?
Those are important questions that we need to think about as a society.
We need to make sure everyone has the same opportunities no matter their genes or how they were conceived.
And that everyone is treated with respect.
Like in that movie Gattaca, where naturally conceived people were considered less than.
We can't let that happen in real life.
Genetic differences can't become a reason to discriminate against someone.
We need to celebrate diversity.
It's a lot to ask, but it's crucial.
I agree. This technology has the potential to completely change who we are as humans, and we need to be ready for that.
It's easy to focus on the scary parts of all this.
But we should also remember the hope that IVG brings.
Hope for who?
People who haven't been able to have children, couples who want to have biological kids, people who want to be single parents. IVG could help them all.
It could create families in ways we never imagined.
And bring so much joy to people's lives.
It really comes down to that basic human desire to have a family.
That's what will always matter, no matter how technology changes.
I mean, it's crazy to think that making babies in a lab used to be like pure science fiction.
Right. But here we are talking about it becoming reality.
It's just a lot to wrap your head around.
It really shows how fast science is moving, you know?
Yeah, and it feels like we have to keep up, ethically speaking.
We do. We can't just wait and see what happens. We have to talk about the implications now.
Absolutely, like right now.
And it can't just be scientists talking about it either.
Right. Everyone needs to be involved.
Policymakers, ethicists, regular people, everyone.
It just feels like, how do we even find common ground on something this big?
Well, I think we start with what we all agree on. You know, like most people want healthy, happy children, loving families,
Of course.
and a fair society.
Those are good goals.
If we remember those things, maybe we can use IVG for good and avoid the bad stuff.
That's the hope, right? Find that balance.
It's not easy, but it's possible. I think through conversation, we can make sure this tech makes things better, not worse.
Well said. I think we've done a pretty deep dive here into IVG and the future of parenthood.
We have, yeah.
We talked about the science, what it could do, all the ethical stuff.
And all the ways it could change society.
But now we want to hear from you, the listener.
What do you think about IVG?
Would you use it? How would you use it?
Would you use it if you couldn't have kids any other way? Would you choose certain traits for your child?
Or does the whole idea of designing a baby make you uncomfortable?
There are no easy answers here.
What's important is that we keep talking about it.
With respect for everyone's opinions.
This is just the beginning of the conversation.
Things will keep changing as the science moves forward.
But the future of family, that's up to all of us.
That's right.
It's powerful stuff.
It is.
And on that note, this has been our deep dive into IVG.
Thanks for listening.
And be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. We really want to know what you think.
We do.
And as always, thank you for listening to the Deep Dive Podcast, brought to you by X9 Intelligence, LLC. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and visit our blogs at x9intel.com. Until next time, keep diving deep.